No. Okay, we're live. Okay, thanks. I'm sorry, I just got so excited to see so many people here. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Are we ready?
Yes.
All right, I would like to call this regular town committee to order for November 9th. Please stand for the pledge and the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sal?
Father God, thank you for entrusting us with your town once again. I ask that you give us your wisdom and discernment, and that we help us make decisions that are best for our citizens. May we honor you in all we say this evening. In your name, amen.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sal. All right, Elise. Okay, Commissioner McMullen,
Present.
Commissioner Pollan,
Here.
Commissioner Ramos,
Present.
Vice Mayor Satterfield,
Present.
Mayor Stark. Here. Okay, first thing we have on the agenda, we've asked Will to keep it kind of short, but we're going to get an update on the master plan for the expressway. And Will, you can introduce yourself and go from here.
Well, again, thank you for having me. You said my name is Will Hawthorne. I'm the Director of Engineering at the Central Florida Expressway Authority. I personally have been looking forward to this presentation. I grew up in West Orange County, born and raised, go to church here in Oakland. My kids go to the school, so love the town. With that, I'm here tonight to present an update on our master plan development for the Central Florida Expressway Authority. I'm sure y'all are familiar with some of our roads. CFX, as it's commonly known, covers Brevard, Lake, Orange, Osceola, and Seminole County. Okay. CFX was created by the state legislature in 2014. Two big changes occurred at that time, which took over our predecessor agency, and that was and expanded our jurisdiction outside of Orange County. Previously, we were confined to just Orange County. We can now go to all 5 of the counties you see there. And the other major change is it gave us the ability to look at multimodal transportation options within our jurisdiction. We are governed by a 10-member board, representatives from each of the counties, as well as the mayor of Orlando, the mayor of Orange County, as well as 3 gubernatorial appointees. It's a little hard to see on the screen here, but our system today, or what we manage and maintain, is about 125 miles of roadway, most of which is in Orange County. We do have a little bit in Lake County that was done as part of the Kaiva Parkway. And then most recently, we took over the Osceola County Expressway asset known as Poinciana Parkway, which is also known as 538. That's at the very bottom of the screen there, near Poinciana. So the growth that Central Florida has been experiencing, I'm sure you're all very familiar with it. Orlando Economic Partnership is estimating that we're still getting around 1,000 to 1,500 new residents each week in the greater Central Florida area. So that's a perfect segue for us to start planning for the year 2045 via our master plan. So the reason I'm here tonight is to get your input as commissioners, mayors, get it from your staff, friends and family. There's a survey at the end. It's a very brief survey, and it's something I asked you to share with anyone you know so that we can get your input. So what is the master plan? The master plan for us, it really sets the course of our future for the next 25 years. The last time we did this was in 2015, 2016, which was a 2040 master plan. And it's time to update it. We try to update it every 5 years. So with that, a couple things to keep in mind when giving your feedback is this is a needs-based plan. It's not a financially feasible plan. I like to call it a transportation wish list, if you will. This is what gets the whole process started to get into our work plan and maybe come to fruition. To bridge the gap between a non-financially feasible plan to a financially feasible plan, being that we're only funded by tolls, we have two subcomponents of that. The first one is a 15-year capital improvement plan. That basically is a cash flow to make sure that whatever project we start, we have the funding to see it through to its completion. The second is the fully funded 5-year work plan. It's a 5-year outlook. It's updated every year and approved by our board. I personally have been to the city of Ocoee, Winter Garden, Topeka, Mount Dora, Berries, Windermere. I'm working my way west. So Oakland and then Claremont and others are next on the stop. In 2015, I wasn't the one that did it, but we went as far west as city of Mascot and as far east as Port Canaveral. So we were really covering some ground and trying to get some input on what the needs are in the area. So the master plan we're working under now, the 2040 plan, identified $11 billion in transportation needs just in the 4 counties. The Brevard was added to our jurisdiction in 2017 by the state legislature, that is. And of that 11 billion by 2025, we will have invested $2.5 billion into those 5 counties.
What is Orange County?
I'm sorry?
Orange County,
What do you
know?
know?
are they 11 billion?
I don't know the breakdown per county on the 11 billion. I think we can look that up though and get it for you.
Yeah.
So want to take a few minutes to highlight some of the accomplishments of that plan. If you've ever driven on the east side of town, 408 and 417, that interchange was opened in late 80s. It served the area very well for almost 30 years. With the enormous growth in the area, UCF doubling, tripling in size, some neat improvements were in dire need. That's what you see here is a completed picture of the totally overhauled interchange. It's working phenomenally. Another one that we're getting ready to wrap up by next summer is to the airport. Left out to the north. Remember the old tight loop ramps you had to drive through and merging with 528. We're getting rid of all of that. We now have directional or semi-directional ramps that take you over 528. You come in and you don't have to do a loop, a slower loop.
As long as you're paying attention.
Yeah.
What's that?
As long as you're paying attention because you
Yeah.
drove it so much you didn't.
It was, you had to have good flexibility in your neck to be able to find you. So that picture that you see here was taken in February of this year. If you've been out there lately, it looks nothing like that.
Say, I just went to the airport the other day to pick up somebody. It don't look like that.
If we got 7 new bridges, we got rid of all the original old bridges. There's 2 that were preserved. It's been a great project with our contractor. The airport's really looking forward to it. So again, it's something that interchange has been around since the early 80s. It served us well, but updates were needed. And that's what we're getting ready to, hopefully we'll have that open next summer completely. Another notable partnership, I'll call it, is with Brightline. You've driven the beach line now out to Port Canaveral. You've seen the railway being built. They're actually starting to bring in rail. Rail pieces is 1,500 feet long, a single piece, which is pretty impressive. We partnered with them for them to be co-located in our right of way. So that was a partnership deal. We don't have really any funding in it. It's just we acquired right of way. They are in 50 feet of that right of way on the south side of 528. I encourage you to go out there and take a look at it. It's really impressive. I'm personally excited that we're going to have train options heading down south. You can get off sit there and not have to drive the entire way. Some other major initiatives, this will touch a little closer to home for town of Oakland. We've added 16 miles to our system. Those two were primarily made up in the Wakaiba Parkway project, which is completely open on our section. DOT is working very fervently to get their sections open at I-4. And then the other new roadway was Point Santa Parkway that I talked about earlier. And that's about a 7-mile roadway bridging Point Santa community over to 1792. Also widening or adding capacity to 417 and 429. The 417 from I Drive on the very southern part of Orange County up to 528. Almost all of those sections are under construction. 429s from Tilden all the way up to 414. We just opened bids on the biggest section, biggest project we've ever done, actually. Just awarded that in October, $170 million job. We're bidding another one next week. So I'll have a late night tonight. And the last one we'll be bidding and getting everything up on 429 widened. We'll get that started under construction by March. That's taking it from 4 lanes to 6 lanes in each, in the expressway. So to explain this map a little bit, the life cycle of a project or a new corridor, you got to do a concept study to identify what corridors you should study. That looks at a bunch of them. That's what we're looking at here is the study areas that we've either completed or underway. They're actually all completed now. That covers a vast area of Osceola County and Orange County and kind of a beltway system for Osceola County down to the south of Lake Toho. The next phase in a project or corridor is to study that particular corridor and see what the best options are from an environmental and social perspective. Called PD&E phase. The areas highlighted here are almost all of those are done except for the little area like 414. If you've ever driven 414 over to I-4, there's 3 signals that clog everything up. We're doing a study to do a separated, elevated viaduct to jump over those 3 signals.
Very nice.
So, yeah, that's, we've been working with DOT. We're almost done with the study. If we can get everything in line, hopefully we'll have design kicked off by next summer. But that's the only project really that's active. So after you do the study, you got to design it and build it. And the areas highlighted here, I'll point 2 of them out to you. Our Lake Orange connector, which is going to bring a limited expressway between Schofield Road out near Orange County National over to US 27 to relieve the east-west connection that really is only served by 50 and 192. There's a dire need for an east-west connection there. That's what it's into design. We'll be starting construction hopefully in 2023. It's about a 4 to 5 mile section. Another one that may be available is extending the Point Santa Parkway to get up to 532 in Osceola. And you'll notice there's a little missing link between I-4, 429 and Point Santa. That's being studied by DOT. We let them take the lead on that because I-4 is a federal highway and they've got all they handle that much better than we do or equipped to. So again, that's a highlight of what we've done or are doing with the 2040 master plan. For us to start looking at something, you've seen examples of this in the news lately. Seminole County's asked us to look at a certain expressway. Osceola County's done that. This is where this starts. We got to get your feedback in that survey. If it's an idea, we look at all of it. We try to respond to it. And if it's something that we can do within our bond covenants and our capabilities, and we'll put it in the master plan. So with that concludes my presentation. The link is right there. It's pretty straightforward. We can send that out. Be done here, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And that's where you want the survey taken. It's on with that, correct?
Yeah, you can go to that survey. To the crowd, click on it. It's on our website. All you got to do is search master plan. It'll take you straight to that. It's a very brief survey. It takes you a couple minutes. Cool. So I encourage you to give the feedback.
And put that up, and we've got a number of communication devices we can ask our residents.
Good. Yeah, that'd be great.
You know, we have, you know, Facebook, we have a newsletter, we have a website, we can put it up and
That would be great. I mean, it.
ask the residents.
Because, you know, we only do this every 5 years, and some people say, well, why haven't you ever looked at this? And I mean, we can do it at staff level, but you know, we're only 80 people deep, you know, and you've got thousands and thousands of travelers and residents out here that may have some ideas that are. So.
And everybody who commutes somewhere has a pain point, you know, and that's what they're gonna wanna talk about. Yeah. So, given growth, that's. I remember that. I remember, you know, the turnpike when I moved out here, it was 2 lanes.
Oh, man.
Or 4, I mean, 4 lanes, 2 lanes each way. And the Oakland exit wasn't even there.
Mhm.
That's still not called the Oakland exit. There's your survey from me.
I have made that clear with the turnpike enterprise.
I know. All right.
Well, we can
Um,
certainly get it out for you anyway.
Yes, we will.
Getting people to respond sometimes isn't quite as easy.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do we have any questions or comments at the table? Okay. Okay.
This lake connection, you said was only 5 miles?
It's about a 5 mile.
Oh, that's it? That's all it is?
I'm sorry.
Okay, so that's all it is only 5 miles? Okay, I thought it was longer than that.
It's a little, yes, that's only about a 5 mile stretch.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, in our traffic studies, there's a lot of people from Disney that would use
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that help out the town of, you know, settlement of Avalon. A lot of people cut through there. They aren't big fans of that. So we're, you know, we've been working with Lake County, Orange County to coordinate their pieces. We've got 2 interchanges, 1 major interchange with 429 that I mean, it's this fairly substantial project. It's actually going to be a pilot project to look at in-road charging. You know, we partnered with an agency out in Utah. We're looking at all the new technology that's coming, and we're trying to set that corridor aside as a place to try stuff so that we can see what's going to make it.
So when you break ground in 23, how long you think it's gonna take?
Oh, man, don't hold my feet to the fire on this one. So if everything goes as planned, we get our permits, we're trying to start construction early to mid 2023. We try to do our projects in no more than 3 years. Anything longer than that, and you feel like you've been out there forever. So we try to we cut them up, and that's why we cut up the 429 projects. Those are going to be starting here in a few months. The first one is from Warrior Road all the way up to Ocoee-Popka Road, or West Road, sorry. So that's the biggest one, and that one's right at 3 years. So that's kind of the limit of what we want to do. So assume 3 years after 2023 that the whole corridor will be open.
So with that, you just discussed the 429, are y'all changing that exit, Violent Road,
Turnpike,
the Violent Road and 429? Because that's been a big headache for a long time.
Vineland Road.
Ballard Road?
Oh, at 535?
Yeah, 535.
So, yeah, what we did, we added the ramps to Stony Brook.
Okay.
We did a traffic study, and I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much of your time, but we did a traffic study. 50% of the people getting off at 535 southbound, we're going through to get to Stony Brook and points west. And we pretty much said, well, if we put these slip ramps in at Stony Brook, I don't know if you've been out there lately, but we got them in. We can free up all that green time at 535 on the signal, give the green time to 535 finally. But in addition to that, we're adding, we call them auxiliary lanes. So we'll have, additional capacity on 429 between the turnpike and 535. And an auxiliary lane is that lane that runs on the outside that's got the short skip lines, which will help, with weaving and merging. So it should help quite a bit.
Thank you.
Great. Anybody else in the audience have any short comments for Will? Please take the survey. Anybody on Zoom? Do we have any hands up? No.
We're good.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
for having me.
good to see you.
You will.
Thank you. Okay.
Before we move on, I just gotta interject it, and you'll understand this. It's nice to see our kids, schoolmates doing so well.
Yes,
Will went to school with our kids here all through school, so, he was a little kid at the house.
yep. He was one of
That means
the,
y'all
one of
old.
the kids.
Yeah,
That means y'all old, right?
Yes,
no, that does not mean that we're old. Her, maybe.
you're older than I am. Yeah, but he was one of the
Yep.
kids that our kids played with when they were small. So I'm trying to think about the most efficient way. The next thing on the agenda is we do have a public forum. And we also, following that, have a consent agenda. And I know that there are people here who want to talk about the pickleball courts. So the public forum generally is reserved for something that is not already on the agenda. But I think that if we hear comment at the public forum about what it is that you want to talk about pickleball, I'm hoping that all of you have read what is in the consent agenda. And then I think we as a commission can decide whether to pull the pickleball court subject out completely until another meeting, or leave it in the consent agenda as is and then address whatever is not being covered. Does that make sense? Okay. So we ask that if you're going to do public forum, that you come to the podium and that you try and keep your comments brief to 3 minutes and that you are not redundant. So Randy, I know that you did want to talk, and we'll make time for anybody who has anything to say about pickleball.
Well, do you want to hold this off until a different meeting?
Well, we only have one meeting in November and one meeting in December.
Okay,
So if the rules are good,
those are good.
then that's what's in the consent agenda. We can pass those.
Yeah.
And then we would have to take up whatever. We could not do anything with the comments other than that tonight, because it's not on the agenda and it's going to take some thought and some research.
Which is why we should probably hear your thoughts.
So we can come back just with something on the.
You go ahead.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you very much for bringing pickleball to Oakland. It's taken off huge.
Yep.
Pickleball courts are busy all the time. People are having fun. Everybody's making new friends. We've been out to dinner with a couple pickleball people already, and everybody's just having a great time. The downside to that is the word's kind of out that Oakland now has a pickleball court.
They don't know that Winter Garden's got a whole bunch of them.
Winter Garden's got a bunch of them. They've just earmarked $300 million for pickleball improvements.
It's amazing.
Yep, it's popular.
That's just.
It's popular.
But what we'd like at the request of some other pickleballers, we would like to see what the possibility of adding additional pickleball courts to Oakland are. And the second point, perhaps getting some sort of low wattage lighting for these pickleball courts, because you can see it's 7:30, it's been dark for about 2 hours now. Most people getting off of work at 5 o'clock, get home, and there's no time to take advantage. Now, I'm not talking about any sort of spotlights or anything, maybe some string lights, 2 watts on a timer that can automatically go off. So we're not upsetting any of our neighbors here
Mhm.
by night. think
But that's the two things.
that's the two things.
Okay. Does anybody else here have anything aside from that they want to talk about? Or is that the basic request?
Basic request.
You know, the first time I ever heard the word pickleball was when we started talking about it here. And I
That's
thought,
'cause you
what
live
the
under a rock.
heck is that? You know, and I'm envisioning, you know, pickles and, everywhere I go now,
Absolutely.
it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
And the thing is, you don't have to be a great athlete to get involved.
That's why it's so popular.
Come out and give it a try, you know, the skill level starts very basic. And the pickleball community is very welcoming to all skill levels, so
Okay.
if you guys get a chance, come on out.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Would you like to add to that?
Just, sorry,
And let us know your name. I'm sorry.
my name is.
For the
Pat
record.
Simpson, and I live in Johns Cove, and I don't have a lot to add. I just have questions of why not add another pickleball court so that the whole community can enjoy a game that would keep people off the streets and in our community, not in Winter Garden. So that we are totally in ourselves in Oakland, and we're making a statement that we want to do something as a community. And I'm not sure why it wouldn't be passed. If it's a question of money, maybe we could raise money or do something. But I think that playing over there, you're not having to take down trees, you're not having to have people put out of their way of their homes or their environment. There's enough room to add one without having to take away. And I think that just like the walking area, the biking area, so forth is important. I think that pickleball has surpassed the use of the tennis courts.
Yeah.
And that's.
So what I would say is, I don't know that any of us want to, we see the need for more pickleball courts. And I wouldn't say that any of us don't want to do that, but we don't know exactly how we would proceed, which is why we're going to need time to take a look at the whole subject.
Of course, and I know that there's a community that's not pro because it's in their backyard. But I think that it's more beneficial than negative, so that we add people in this area using the facilities instead of going to another area
Right.
and being involved in that area. I think we want to keep our people and our community as a tight knit.
Well, it's like team building.
Correct.
So we get it. And, but it's not gonna be it's not gonna take us 3 years to make a decision like, the Expressway Authority.
No, tomorrow is fine.
Well, thank you.
I'm not thinking, so Steve is very organized and he sets agendas well in advance and makes sure that we have everything, buttoned up. I don't know when it'll come back. I doubt it would be December,
No,
but,
as long as it's not put on the back burner.
no, it won't be.
That I'm 104 when it gets
No.
passed, because it'll be very difficult for me to play as well as my children. But I think that it's just something that we should think about instead of pushing it off.
We'll get back to you in the new year.
Thank you for even thinking about it.
Thanks.
If that's the direction of the commission, just by consensus, wants to come back and look at the park, we can absolutely do that. We can have a work session in the spring and talk about if there is space for a second pickleball court. I will say it'll be a little bit of a heavier lift to talk about lights.
Yes.
And we'll have to make sure that if we do talk about lights, we have to talk about the right kind of lights, because there is some risk and liability involved with that. We've got to make sure it's safe with the right kind of lights.
And I'm not, I don't want to, I don't want to have any pre-formed conclusions about where it's going to go either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what
So-
I'm saying. There's a lot of ideas of what we.
I think-
There may be some other ideas. I do know
Yeah.
there's room, there is enough room next to the current one, but there could be some other opportunities out there that we haven't explored.
Yeah, and that's what we got to do.
I think a community, work session with that the community can also be a part of so that we can advertise that.
Bless you.
Absolutely. So I certainly can look at our schedule and get something on our longer
Bless you.
agenda.
All right, so what we're gonna, the action that we're gonna take is we are giving direction to staff to study the addition of another pickleball court, study lighting and make, and have some community input. And it's going to be next in the new year that we, start all this process.
Yes.
But we will leave the pickleball rules in the consent agenda.
Yeah, as soon as the consent agenda is approved, I'll get with Mike, we'll get the signs ordered and we'll get the little paddle holders for the cues. We'll get those ordered and get those up in a couple of weeks.
Does that,
That's great.
am I,
Yeah,
You're right
I'm
on.
just trying to recap it,
and we get consensus on that,
and you have consensus, so.
because we know you guys are bored and are looking for stuff to do, right? So
I'm glad you like them, I really am. I'm very glad.
I'm just amazed about the whole thing. I really am.
It's a lot of fun. I play with my family.
You live under a rock.
A lot of fun.
I had never heard of it until we started. It's been-
Yeah, and I also assured people that once we're done talking about whatever subject they're here for, they are allowed to leave. It's not considered rude. It's the way we roll. So you're welcome to stay. I mean, it's entirely up to you what you'd like to do.
There goes the crowd.
So I'm gonna move on to consent.
We haven't
agenda.
voted on it yet, so I don't know if you want to leave.
We gave consent.
Thank you.
We gave consensus. We don't have to vote on it.
We have to vote to
We
approve.
have to vote on the rules,
No, it's in the consent agenda, right?
The rules
just the
are,
rules.
the rules are. What we just did, Rick, was give a consensus for staff to start looking at the possibility
Right.
of court lighting. That's not.
But we haven't approved the consent agenda yet.
Yeah, we have. Where you been?
No, we have not. But we did ask the people that were here if they had any issues with it. and they said no. So the next thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. So do we have anything that we want to talk about on the consent agenda, or are we good with a motion?
I'll make the motion, accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Any questions, any comments? All in favor? All right. Now we get to the fun stuff. Ordinance 2021-19.
Okay, this is the first public hearing of ordinance 2021-19, an ordinance of the town of Oakland, Florida, amending the town's official zoning map designation from the C1 commercial to PD plan development with a master plan in the town of Oakland for a parcel of land approximately 32.8 acres in size, located at 15900 West Colonial Drive in Oakland, Florida, on the south side of State Road 50. West Colonial Drive, east of the Florida Turnpike, making findings and providing for conflict, severability, and ordinance dictate.
Okay, Jay, you're taking this.
Okay, so we have the Gateway TV rezoning, and while it is a site of 32 acres, a little more, most of it is wetlands going back to the turnpike, part of the whole drainage from John's Lake through to Lake Apopka. And the question is whether to rezone this from C1 to PD land development. So why do we have to do that? It's all about, yeah. The question there is The question is about the drive-throughs. So we have a zoning code that allows the drive-throughs, but only with the plan development rezoning. I want to be careful about that. And so you see the site, and there you see that there's only really 6.48 acres involved in it. And it's actually a fairly reasonable plan for 4 lots. These are going to be not just one tenant on each one of these sites, but the applicant is here and can explain, a little more detail about what they want to do and how they want to do it. They proposed 3 drive-through facilities, and so we really have developed some significant standards for drive-through facilities, because that's something that, most people think it's kind of unsightly a lot of times to see these stacks of cars going around along strip commercial highway, but yet at the same time, you've got a 6-lane road out there, and with the drive-throughs and the pandemic, where people are, doing a lot of drive-through, it's become even more important to recognize that there is that need. So the Planning and Zoning Board was looking at that, and they recognized that, and they're, in addition to all these different standards, they wanted to take it a little bit easy, and we'll talk about that. But basically, your design standards that we've got into this development agreement that goes with this is about integrating the building design with the drive-through, visually buffered, additional screening, versus compliance with their design requirements themselves, and delineating the pedestrian connections. We still want people to be able to walk off the street and come in without getting knocked off by the drive-through. So there are ways to do this. It's careful site planning. And of course, we want to look at compatibility with neighborhoods in the future, noise, lighting, et cetera. And there aren't any neighborhoods immediately adjacent to this, but that's just a typical kind of thing you got to think about with this type of activity. So the Planning and Zoning Board said, look, 3 is too much. Let's start with 1 and see how that goes. And then each additional drive-through there would be, you would see it essentially as a special exception type of permit process. So everybody would see it. And the buildings, remember, the buildings and the site plans are going to go through your Parents Review Board, the Planning Board, and yourselves. So there are, I can attest, I don't know if you can think of any, but there are in this area places where there are drive-throughs, you don't know it from the street. You cannot even tell. So I know it can be done. There are places where you have drive-throughs that are integrated with the building. And that's kind of what we're shooting for. So we do recommend that you go ahead and approve this code, this ordinance change, with that exception of 1 permitted drive-through at this time. The others coming back when they're ready. So
Go ahead.
I think that's all I have to say.
When I think about it, and what made me think about it was DG Donuts. That is a drive-through that doesn't really look like a drive-through. It's compatible with what we're trying to achieve here. So I think that started what kind of started that conversation. It's not, you know, lights and roofs and, you know, things like that. So it's very carefully planned out.
I will also mention that if you look at the plan, you know, there is a frontage, I'll call it a rear road that goes all the way through the back of it. So when the development on either side, east and west, and it is coordinated with very closely with the development to the east, the Kitty Academy that you've seen already. So it'll all be integrated along there.
Okay.
So
Do we have, you said the applicant is here. Does the applicant want to speak? Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Martyr, and thank you, Madam Mayor and Town Council. I'm with the applicant. So my name is Alan Bradley. I'm with the Huber Group. We're based in downtown Windermere, and I'm born and raised on West Orange County dirt. So it's kind of fun to get to work here in some place that I've been around for maybe not as long as everyone else, but I have lost a lot of hair dealing with it. So traffic, you know. And thanks to the Expressway Authority for telling us that things will get better. Just to summarize really what Mr. Martyr said, we've had a lot of fun, in my opinion, working together with him and the rest of the staff to come together on a project that we really believe in. I think he summarized it quite well in that we will see you again when we do our site plan and we do our things, but what we wanted to put together now was a really good idea of what kind of project you could expect to revisit, right? Because for us, it's got to become a study of what can we really make happen here that's going to work well for the town. Because I know a number of years ago, there was a lot of vignettes and a lot of meetings and a lot of long hours put into the gateway overlay. So in terms of us trying to stay true to that and translate it into today, and then added expert, you know, testimony of this pandemic that we've had to kind of wrestle with as well, to say, how do we adjust to that and really still fit something in? But he put it great. You know, we've got an extension of the road network, something that is going to be presentable along the Highway 50 corridor while being adequate and appropriate on such a main highway, serving the town of Oakland's residents with something that I think has been missing maybe for a little while, and could be much appreciated when it is open. So we look forward to the rezoning and the rest of the process when we do get our individual buildings designed and we do bring some actual users back in front of you. We did present it with 3 drive-throughs because that still functioned on the site. So I don't want to put it in any term that we're going to be like cutting corners to bring back another drive-through in the future. It's something that we laid out purposefully from the beginning. And if you've ever been to, it's where Starbucks, Hawkers, and Bank of America are at Conroy, Windermere, and Apopka Vineland in the Isleworth Shopping Center. There is a drive-through in that building. And with a lot of work from our engineer and our team, we put together a very similar style because it was one of those things that you drive by and you didn't know it was there. And that was sort of what we translated as the real goal here.
Right.
And just like what you said with DG Donuts, it's not an afterthought, it's very deliberate. And how can we make it blend in with great architecture in a great corridor? So I'm happy to say that I'm not worried if I do come back in later with other users to be able to plead my case building by building. And I'm happy that you're able to consider at least 1 drive-through tonight, although our application did have the 3. It did, you know, make sure that we did the homework to preemptively consider how to make it work the best possible way.
Yeah.
So any questions that you do have for me tonight, I'm all ears and hopefully I have some decent answers.
Does anybody have any questions at the table?
I have a question. So I know DG Donuts is more like a boutique type of scenario.
Yes, sir.
And you had mentioned there's other ones around the area other than what you mentioned in the Islesworth Shopping Center. What kind of restaurants will these be? And I'm not against drive-throughs if they have some sort of sit down,
Sure.
kind of like a Four Rivers type of style, but
Absolutely.
what I don't want to see, even though I love their fries, it's like a Checkers hamburger stand and here in our town.
Yeah,
So what exactly type of restaurants you're targeting?
targeting really at this point, everything. It depends on the market kind of driven. But I will say that what we've designed is not really set up for single user buildings. Those buildings are much larger than any fast food drive-through type user. And the idea being that maybe one building grows and one shrinks because potentially there is a small grocer or potentially there is a drugstore that wants to have a drive-through component. It's not just for food service, but in terms of people that we've worked with on other very, very similar products in Central Florida, we're talking about Foxtail or we're talking about Twisty Treat. It's not just sort of the grab and go and you don't ever think about it again. But ideally, these buildings would be set up to where they have more than one user per building. So it doesn't just get built to look like Checkers. It looks like a building that fits into the fabric, and as well as the work that you've done in the past on Racetrack and with all of the language that goes into the Gateway vernacular, it's always going to come out as a really rich product that looks like the brick or has that shaker style, that old Florida style with siding mixed with brick and with the tin roof. To say who the user is today, I don't know. I haven't even put it out up until we sort of started having conversations now that we've gotten through some of the process, because it's just too premature, really. But like I say, similar things that we've done in other places like this would warrant a building that has more than one user. Maybe there is some fast service component to that building, and maybe there is some fully sit down component to that building that has no drive-through. And
A mayor's
share that
tavern.
space.
The mayor wants a tavern.
Okay. Noted.
Had me a Twisty Treat.
And what do you want, Joseph?
And I'm saying, yeah, I'm a sucker for the sweets. So.
Yeah, Joseph has something in mind too.
Well, I just want to make sure, this is very subjective, visually buffered and,
Yes.
and screened. So I want to
Absolutely. it
make
is.
sure, we're on the same page as far as, I know we don't have any designs now, but I want to make sure that, some examples of what is visual.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of that process that he mentioned also, if I was to lay this all out and construct the road, part of this project also I want to point out is construction of a traffic signal if we get through the FDOT process at Captain Ross, the new intersection, the two Be Connected North. So, in my world, everything kind of gets put in while I'm trying to have those discussions with who comes on each individual building and how they look, all comes back to the ARB process. And we worked with Mr. Morrissey, we worked with Mr. Martyr. So this is writing basically a recipe book for the first time that you ever see this. It will have gone through these paces.
Right, but I want to make sure we dictate the menu.
Yes, sir.
When you
Yeah,
come out.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it circles back here, if I'm not mistaken. We would come back potentially 4 times if I bring one building in at a time. It would be through the ARB to the P and Z and then back to you. Even if it was passed with 3 drive-throughs, you would still see me 3 times with all 3 drive-throughs, whether you hold that out or put that in tonight.
Well, mom is mainly, talking to Jay and.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we did do quite a bit of research on drive-throughs.
Right.
Started coming through. And I think our, just our pure drive-through standards are pretty good. If I do say so, but also, you know, you've got your design requirements. So it's not just gonna be any old building.
No.
And believe me, we whack these guys around, you know, we make sure that.
Go through the ringer.
You're saying you worked well with him.
It's a good process. It's pickleball, really.
Sounds like a ball right there.
Decisions, but we are rather insistent on, and you're gonna see that. And I think you do see it already in some places along the recent projects.
Yeah.
So even within their,
It's not gonna be any different here. It's just gonna be.
and
Good
all of
design.
this detail will be part of what they come through with ARB, but even in the details that they put together for tonight, they're showing the types of, you know, trees and landscaping that'll go along 50.
Yeah, but you can still have a drive-through and still see it. That's what I'm mainly, yeah, I know that part, but I'm mainly concerned about, like the Chase has the down the street has the drive-through in the back, you can't see it, but, we're talking about DG, you still can see it, but still, I want to make sure that this visual, this doesn't become ambiguous and we fighting over,
Sure. That's a good point.
Anybody else at the table?
So if we approve this, there's nothing to say we won't get a Checkers there or we won't get a Hardee's there.
But you'll see it come back. But at the end of the day, the user is not something that I typically see blocked out at a zoning level.
We can't dictate users here at this level. We can't dictate the users here at this level. And instead,
So we can't say no national change.
Not yet.
Well, I think that it's important to recognize that our design guidelines is not gonna allow you to do something like a Checkers. It looks like that. It's not gonna happen. Because you see everything there. It's very retro, kind of 50s-ish. And that's, it can't happen. All the materials you see on a typical Checkers, all that chrome and everything like that. I mean, it's just not something that is in our code.
It's kind of like racetrack.
I was gonna say, ultimately, we're in that 12-year process with racetrack was that exact thing. They wanted that type of a building. We said no, and it's not that we're gonna hold you up 12 years.
No, but that's a great example because you said if yes, you have a racetrack, but you arguably have the best looking racetrack anyone's ever seen because you held them to your design standards. So if it was to be a Checkers, let's say, Checkers arguably can and would maybe want to come, but you get to make them look like how you want them to look. And that's the power here.
Yeah, well, ditto Tractor Supply.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the Tractor Supplies have this big metal kind of a thingy. And ours is obviously. more-
Yeah, very nice.
It's-
So we might get the best looking checker hamburger stand in.
No, like Checkers.
I like their fries. They're good.
And their fries, that's.
Yeah, and
Once a year.
Quality of Checkers gone hill in the past, but really down in the last 5 years. They used to have really good milkshakes, and milkshakes are no good.
there's a lot of line
As
now.
we digress.
I don't think that we can take you can always vote no based on your personal opinion of their milkshakes, but that's not what we're doing here.
I know.
So the idea here is if you've got control because of the design of the buildings, you can't say you like X over Y as far as users. As long as they come in and comply with the building design and all our standards.
Yeah.
So you just need to keep that in mind, but you've set a very high bar, so you're not going to get average, places coming in and wanting to build here. So.
Awesome.
And so let me see if I put it this way. Am I right? There will not be as much as everyone in the world loves Chick-fil-A, there will not be a red Chick-fil-A with double lanes and people, directing traffic off the street. I mean, that's what we're not going to let happen. It's not going to be a Chick-fil-A like that. And so a chain like that would probably say, well, we're not coming.
Right.
I don't think there's enough room in this design for a Chick-fil-A style. I mean, I counted the cars, there's 8,
Okay.
it's probably like 84.
But the point I'm trying to make is that just what they build with, just like with Racetrack, will not fit here. And unless they build it the way it fits here, they're either not coming or they're doing it differently.
Correct.
And what you've done, or what the opportunity is in front of you is you've minimized your risk. You're only allowing one for them to move forward with. We can work through the process with the one before you decide on the special exceptions on the other 2. So you get to move through the first one to see how the process is going to work to go through this. But based on what they've brought and the sizes of the buildings and things, you're looking at something that's not going to be the typical little Taco Bell or KFC or McDonald's or whatever.
Well, don't get hung up on what it is, because the odds that it's 1 in 4 that it might not even be a restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are other opportunities with drive-throughs between banks and pharmacies and other things. So
And Four Rivers is a great example of a drive-through that would work here.
yeah, that's definitely a huge opportunity, and that's the kind of restaurant I think would end up wanting to be here. But again, it's going to be market driven, and
we can't say,
To approve this tonight, we aren't approving what the building's gonna look like or any of that. We're just gonna, the one drive-through.
The 4 buildings.
we're approving the possibility of drive-through as long as you follow our design standards.
But only one will be a drive-through. The other 2 would have to come in front of us again.
yes,
Every one of them has to come.
Okay.
they all have to come through for design. The other 2 will have to have an extra step with the special exception. There'll be an additional. You'll have one that's going to come through, and it's going to have the drive-through on it as approved. The other 2, they're going to have to come in and ask, can we bring a drive-through? So.
If we have to make them wait 12 years to satisfy us, we shall.
Yes, we shall. We have.
And as far as.
We don't want to, but
As far as the big picture and some of the things, as far as staff checking things off, so this east-west connector road as an interior road on this, following the block pattern that we've been talking about with the mobility study. They've been very compliant and worked well with us. The connection at the Catherine Ross intersection there. There is the ditch that goes from Johns Lake. It goes through this property to Lake Apopka. We'll be working with them on the engineering on that and how that's going to be handled. So there's still some things for us to work out with them before it comes in with a plat and final engineering. But they've worked very well with us in trying to set that vision of what the town's looking for.
But what we're talking about tonight is the possibility of allowing a drive-through should it meet our design standards. That's, I think, all we're doing, correct? Am I
Yeah,
correct?
yes, with those stipulations that we're going to make it, as nice a drive-through as possible.
It meets our approval.
And so I go to DG Donuts tomorrow and let them know that we approved the building for them.
Yes.
What building?
Moving across the road.
But that drive-through, I mean, we approved that, God knows how many years ago, but it was approved with a drive-through. And that was, and we've refined, and luckily that was a drive-through that kind of fit you know, what we were trying.
I don't think it got used much until DG Donuts got in there. though.
It didn't.
Yeah.
I'd take that car wash out if I, you know, could go back 20
Yeah,
years.
and that was, that ice cream place in it, if you remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we go.
Anyway, all right. Any more at the table? Any other concerns? And this is first reading. We'll have another reading, so. All right, anybody in the, okay, so wait a minute, I need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Ordinance number 2021-19.
Second.
Okay, I'm gonna open a public hearing. Do we have anybody in the room who has comment? Okay, do we have anybody on Zoom? Raise your hand, please. Okay, bring it back to the table, close the public meeting. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ordinance 2021-27, first public reading.
Okay, first public hearing ordinance 2021-27, an ordinance of the town of Oakland, Florida, amending section 62-2. Chief of Police in section 62-5, vehicles obstructing roadway of Article 1 in general of chapter 62, traffic and vehicles of the town of Oakland, Florida. Code of ordinances adopting a new section 62-30, parking and stopping in certain locations prohibited, and a new section 62-31, parking for certain purposes prohibited of Article 2, stopping, standing, and parking of chapter 62, traffic and vehicles of the town of Oakland, Florida. Code of ordinances modifying the authority of the chief of police with respect to the adoption of traffic rules, regulations, and signage, providing for parking signs, authority to make recommendations regarding placement of traffic control devices and regulatory signs, and authority to tow or impound certain vehicles, prohibiting the stopping or parking of motor vehicles at certain times or locations or for certain purposes, and providing for codification, conflict, severability, and an effective date.
All right, I'll go ahead and speak to this, and then Chief Peaks here also to add and answer any questions, but this started off with a complaint over, I believe it's Southern Railway, right behind the racetrack. We've got a lot of big rigs that are parking there.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So Chief Peak, looking at our codes and working with the town attorney, with Stephanie and with Becky Bose, essentially updated our ordinance so that we can put some no parking signs and the ability to tow if needed. What we've got in there is basically, so what we're going to do is at the next meeting, when we read this, do the second reading, we're also going to designate no parking on Southern Railway, or have the commission designate no parking on Southern Railway. I think we can do that by resolution. And what this ordinance does is basically allows myself or Chief Peak to make recommendations to the commission on areas that we want to put no parking signs. We can bring it to you as a recommendation with a resolution, and then we can put those signs up with a resolution. So the first one that needs to be done is the Southern Railway with racetrack. So that's the idea. And we'll bring that resolution with the second reading. We'll bring the resolution to also approve so that we can get those signs posted.
Okay.
So, and if you have any questions, Chief Peak has been the main person on this and working with our code enforcement.
All right, do we have any questions at the table?
It's HOAs, you know, you can't do anything with HOAs, right? HOAs have to deal with the HOA.
As far as parking goes?
Yeah, right.
Well, within the gated subdivisions, it's
Right.
definitely HOA.
Yeah.
Outside of that, we can work with the HOAs to make recommendations.
No, I'm good.
All right. I need a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-27.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. I'm going to open a public hearing. Do we have any questions or comments from the audience? Do we have any questions or comments from Zoom? Please raise your hand. All right, we'll bring it back to the table, close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. All right, resolution 2021-13 Hull Island Phase 2 plat.
Resolution 2021-13, resolution of the town of Oakland, Florida, making findings, approving a final plat of Whole Island Phase 2 and providing an effective date.
My own. Cousins for one of them. Okay, so it was last week, I believe, that we had Whole Island up and a few questions were brought up with regard to potential for invasive species on the lots abutting the nature preserve. I think a question was brought up on the fencing type. So that you didn't either have a jumble or a solid wall. And I think we also had some discussion a little bit on what we might be able to do with plantings to kind of break that up a little bit. The developer MI Homes did come back and we had a Zoom conference with them and they were actually very helpful with it. At least with two of the things as far as they could go. So they have agreed to and added into the HOA documents, their design documents, that those lots that abut the nature preserve on that south side on the new property will have a black aluminum fencing, powder coated, or some variation thereof. As well as they added a section into their landscaping for Florida friendly landscaping. I didn't go into this, but apparently their legal counsel advised that there is a Florida statute section that pretty much limits the HOAs to saying Florida friendly, like it's kind of as far as they can go as far as prohibitions, but they've tried to add in as much as possible to ensure that there are no invasive species planted so that they cross pollinate, for lack of a better, I'm not a biologist, so, or a botanist for that. So staff is, as we before, recommending approval of the plat itself with these amendments that they have done. I think we've kind of tried to address those questions.
And when you say the fencing, it's kind of like the faux wrought iron fencing that you
It's
can
that
see.
aluminum, no, I don't think that that MI specified a height to it, but typically those are at that 54-inch, so it's almost a pool height type fencing. But you can get it up to 6 feet.
What I'm saying is it's not opaque. It's
Yes, it's the faux wrought iron so that you can see between the two.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, this is if the homeowner wants a fence, then these particular houses on the south side will have to use the faux wrought iron. So that when you're walking on the red trail and you're looking over, you're not going to see a big expanse of vinyl fence. Okay, so that's the idea.
I like that better.
So if they do put up fence, and MI's here tonight, they've been very helpful with this. And I've had a couple of conversations with Jim Peterson and with Jennifer. I believe Jennifer's on the call.
Yes.
But the big piece of this is going to be education. Working with Jennifer, we're going to get some materials so that MI can put it on their or the HOA can put it on their portal. And we can also work on getting it to the new homeowners because they need to understand the invasives. But they have added in, they provided us with the information that will be added into the HOA docs specifying the fences on these particular lots. And also specifying, reiterating Florida friendly and not using invasives. So they've done everything that we've asked them to. We've talked about at the top, there's a 13-foot, essentially 13 feet between the fence of O&P and the back of the lots of the houses. And that particular 13 feet along a large span of it, not the entire section, but a large span of it. There's going to be a swale through there that's going to be taking the water off the nature preserve and directing it down to the bottom to the low point. The top of that swale, we're working with MI to do some plantings along the top of that tail, along the fence line, things that the nature preserve has specified that they'd like to see. We gave them a list of about 8 or 10 different trees, I believe, and they're going to work with us on and the idea is not to put a buffer that you can't see through, but to put some plantings along there so that if you bought a house there, you can see the nature preserve, but you got some trees there. If you're on the red trail, you can still kind of see through, but you've got kind of a muted view of it. It's not to put a hedge across there so that you can't see anything, because I'm sure the new homeowners are going to want to have that view of the nature preserve. If I was moving in there, I'd want that. So that's the idea with the fence, the wrought iron fences. But again, going back to the invasives, the big thing is going to be education. So, and I'll let Jennifer speak. She's online if she's got anything else she'd like to add.
Jennifer?
Sorry,
Hello?
just unmuting myself. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. I just want to say thank you very much to the town, to MI and the developer for the hard work they've put in over this past couple of weeks to work with us on this and making it the best possible solution that it can be. So thank you very much for that. And we'll be working on education packets for the new homeowners, as well as getting with the HOA doing digital versions as well for their use.
So Jennifer, would you say that this was something that we could take away to other possible developments that abut the
Absolutely.
nature preserve? So this was a good conversation and a good exercise.
Yes, and it was a good exercise for my restoration volunteers as well, at working with the communities that are coming in and knowing that this is the future of Oakland and that we should work together as a team and make it work for everyone.
Awesome. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I don't. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. All right.
So on this 13-foot buffer, the homeowner is going to be aware they can't plant anything other than the trees that the developer's going to plant. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's an HOA tract. So the HOA they'll be the ones taking care of that. So they'll have to manage making sure they don't plant anything in that.
Because I'm picturing if the homeowner doesn't put a fence there, that 13 feet is more like an extension of their backyard.
Well, you're not going to want to impede that swell. So the HOA is going to have some governance over that. So.
Yeah, that kind of takes the backyard away when you get that big swale behind it. So.
Well, I just seen, like in our subdivision, I've seen people plant trees and right smack in the middle of the swell.
Well, I can tell you if it's not native, we'll know about it.
Yeah. That's true.
And that's my.
Oh, yeah.
Is what's the difference between you're saying Florida friendly and you're saying Florida native? What, is that the same thing?
No.
I didn't think so.
Florida friendly is crepe myrtle. Now, it's not considered invasive, but it's a flowering tree that you use for decorative. So Florida friendly, that's acceptable. Something that like, what's something that's invasive?
China berry.
China berry.
Berry.
That would be
Brazilian pepper.
invasive. That would be off the table. So you've got your oak tree, your crepe myrtle, and your China berry. And the China berry is the one that's off limits. The other two you can.
Okay.
Because there are, according to Katie Moss Warner, who's was a horticulturist at Disney, there are no flowering trees that are Florida native.
Really?
Really? Unless you count an orange blossom, I don't know, I guess, would it be Florida native?
Nope, they are Spanish.
I learned.
Yeah.
So is that correct, though, that there are no flowering trees that are Florida native?
That I do not know. But some of the things with the Florida friendly, they're looking at drought tolerant things that are not, well, invasive is one thing, but also a nuisance plant that can take over an area that's not necessarily considered native or invasive, those kinds of things. So there are a lot of different things that they look at for the Florida friendly.
If you guys, if anybody gets an opportunity to do the tree walk, in Winter Garden, I learned a lot about those kinds of things. You can ask a lot of questions. Clearly, I didn't ask them all, but you know, it's very educational.
I didn't know that about flowering.
Yeah.
I have another question. Are you just hanging out on your lounge chair there, Jennifer? Is that?
I think she's in bed.
Jennifer, turn yourself off for him. Just hang up on you. You have permission. All right, any more questions at the table?
I would just like to thank MI Homes also, because I know this came up at the
Very last minute.
very last minute of the last meeting, and I really appreciate you guys working with the town and OMP and fulfilling everybody's wishes here. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure working with Steve and the staff, and we've had quite a long run, I think, of pretty cooperative actions on both parts, and we appreciate you folks as well.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm glad. That was a good catch. And, you know, we'll be using that going forward.
Got at least one more that's abutting.
If we have the opportunity, we're going to use it. All right, so if there are no more questions or comments at the table, I need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-15. No, I'm sorry, 2021-13.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. It is not an ordinance, but I will open a public hearing. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, how about from afar? Any hands up? Okay, bring it back to the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, resolution 2021-15 Briley Farm.
Okay, this is resolution 2021-15 Briley Farm Phase 1A replat. The resolution of the town of Oakland, Florida, making findings, approving a final plat of Briley Farm Phase 1A and providing an effective date.
All right, the final plat of Barley Farm Phase 1A. Jump right onto this. As you can see, it's a variety of property owners, with the Voss family being the apparently major holders. The property is zoned R1A currently, and it is actually full existing platted lots for the town of Oakland, totaling at approximately 8.97 acres, 9 acres. Just kind of give you an overview of the underlying lots. These are the blocks that we're talking about with the heavier outline in red. Just did a quick count because some of them are split by the trail and how that kind of came in and so on. There's about 35 to 40 underlying platted lots that are there. The proposal brought forth by the group working with the Voss family et al. Comes in with 17 lots, as well as reopening Pollard Street and Nixon. Both of those had been vacated at one point and included in with the lots. With this replat, they are basically being reopened. This is fairly simple, simply from a staff standpoint, kind of equate this to a lot split or a lot deaggregation or a lot reaggregation versus a plat, other than they're reestablishing some right of ways that weren't there. And there's a large number of lots. That's why this makes more sense than any other process that there is out there.
Is there alleyway?
There are the old alleyways. If you kind of get down in there in the underlying old plat, and in this particular case, I think those are all utility easements. There are one in between the lots that are kind of shown on the plat. That are anywhere from 10 feet, 10-foot total width, so 5 on each. But I think most of the lots have a 10-foot utility easement bounding them on the roadside.
So it's an easement, not an alley.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the original plat called for alleys in there, but that's not part of this.
Right.
So when we bought our lots, it had alleyways platted. And we, just vacated.
And if the old underlying plat had them, the re-plat or overlaying a new plat on top of that essentially vacates those that already had.
And the title didn't come back with anything that looked a little bit funky as far as I was
So
told.
these were lots that have existed since,
Most of them have been aggregated together. Either somebody built a house on them or they bought them in block and the property appraiser put them all together. In this particular case, you know, if somebody came back with some of those and said, hey, I've got 8 lots, I want to build 2 houses on.
That,
You kind of have to acquiesce to that.
that whole strip started out, because I'm on that strip on the other side of it, that whole strip started out at my house sits on 3 lots.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I
I'm
own the
on- I
back
think
part
I'm
of
on
it, and it went 6 lots, my whole property, yeah, so you would probably understand over there front. So that was three old lots make one of those lots, and it goes all the way down to Jefferson, split up almost the exact 150 by 125 each lot, somewhere there in that.
A couple of points of clarification. So just considering this as infill, it's part of the old plat. So these 17 lots will be on septic systems. Any other new developments that happen within what's going to be the future Bradley Farm development is all anticipated to be on sewer. The sewer system will have the capacity that in the future, these could end up on sewer, but initially these will be on septic.
Yeah, because you have the rest of the lots that go out towards the lake as well.
So as this progresses in the future, we'll be talking about sewer, but these are being considered, they're the old plat, they're considered just like any of the other houses that are already there. If you just were building a single house, we wouldn't be able to get sewer to you. So that's how these are being considered, these 7.
and what's the average size of these lots? Are they all the same and?
Yeah, I'm just
Pretty much.
drawing a blank, but I think they wind up being almost like some of them 150 by 150. So let's say
So pretty big.
between 80 to 100 by whatever the depth of those existing old lots.
Well, and we do have,
The applicant is-
Close to 100
the
feet wide and
some of these lots are as wide as 120 feet.
Okay.
they're good sized lots.
Does the applicant wish to speak at this point?
We don't have to.
Afraid? Is he afraid?
Come say hi, Gary.
Yeah, come say hi.
That means you have to, I guess, right?
Thank you. I'm Gary Gray. I'm part of the development team. And Becky Wilson's on Zoom, but I just want to say that this has been so much fun for me. To find this project, to find this town, to find this opportunity, and to start to bring back some of the history of Bradley Farm and how this property's gone through so many changes. And we feel very privileged that we can bring this back to the town and make it part of the town, bring new people into this community as well as myself and my wife. And so we look forward to it. And it's been a wonderful process. The staff's been great.
And this strictly tonight is a replat. There's nothing else that we're approving.
No, there's other things going on. You haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
The rest of that will come,
right.
in the spring, I anticipate. And, the idea with this is to really have these additional lots feel like they're part of what's already here in town. So it's just like an extension. It's following that plat. It's very similar, that the lot sizes are very similar to those houses that are across the street, down the street. All those, very similar feel.
Fits into the fabric of the neighborhood.
Exactly.
I like the opening of the roads too,
Yes.
very much.
I sure hope they look something like mine. I'm on the next block right there.
We've got a great responsibility to make sure they look. Yeah, and I think that that's a big part of what I'm an architect. I think I'm very jealous about that. I think that we've got a great opportunity to do some architecture that's consistent with what you've got here, that kind of reflects the history again and doesn't look like it's dropped from a spaceship.
Great. All right, so do we have any questions at the table?
Just comment, I'm super excited, happy that you guys are doing this and you're passionate about our town. And you're not just thinking about, making the money and running, but actually you're moving here, so you're putting a lot of thought into it.
Yep.
You and your wife are
Very
living there,
jealous
so,
about it.
yeah, so I'm really excited and happy about it.
Thank you.
And there's no trouble reopening either of those streets that Jacob closed all those years ago.
No, it'll be part of the fabric as the rest of the project moves forward. It's keeping the same grid system that we currently have, so there won't be any problem with that. It'll take some moving some dirt around, but it's gonna feel very much like the rest of town.
Just brings to mind, Dennis and Ruth Gators.
Yes.
Because they're on hard right there, so they face that. How does that affect someone like that? That I think when they bought the place, it was already closed down. So
I have a question on West Railroad Avenue. Is that open already?
It
I
is,
don't see that as a part of what's open.
it's an ingress egress to the property that's already existing there. So yes, it is. You can't, I ride my bike back through there. We keep it mowed. It's not an actual paved, it doesn't have dirt down or anything. Mike's group keeps it mowed over there.
Is that gonna open? You guys gonna pay that? Or?
Yeah, we have to, the Orange County Fire Department requires us to have access to the front of those houses.
And we're talking about improved roads. We're not necessarily talking about paved roads.
West Railroad Avenue. I saw the other, bridge and
That's
culvert.
the Pollard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's the actual ingress egress for that particular lot.
That's a short road. Around the curve.
And part, we're bringing fire
Muppet system.
suppression system and water to these too, so that's part of.
that's further up.
You're thinking about everything. Perfect.
Yeah.
That road never existed, and it did exist.
Right.
We moved here. All right, we digress. Any other questions? All right, I need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-15 Bradley Farms Phase 1A replat.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I'm gonna go ahead and open a public hearing. Is there any comments from the audience? Are there any comments from afar? Do we have any hands raised? Hang on one second. Okay. Do we have any hands raised? None. All right, I'm bringing it back to the table. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. This is, I know this has been a very long and thoughtful road to get just here. So we,
I do have a question. It doesn't involve anything that we would have voted on, but Mrs. Voss's house just stays the way it is for a while. Is that what happens with her?
Yes, there's no timetable. She stays there as long as she's.
Okay.
And same with Jeff.
With Jeff.
okay.
Yeah, I knew Jeff was, so.
Is Jeff staying? I know this might be premature. Is he staying in Orange County or is he eventually coming in, or you don't know?
Public meeting.
Or you don't want to say? It's fine.
It's coming.
You don't have to answer.
That'll be in future discussions.
Okay. All right, resolution 2021-16 budget amendment.
Okay, resolution 2021-16 budget amendment of the Town Commission of Oakland, Florida, adopting an amended budget for fiscal year 2021 and providing for conflict, severability, and integrity.
All right, so there's a couple things that's driving this budget amendment. So we have some audit findings with last year, and we should have done a budget amendment with the previous year. Things have gotten very busy with the town, and it's hard to anticipate, especially with COVID, how things are going to go. And then there's always things that come up.
And then the great resignation.
Right. So what we put together, Renee and I, and working with one of our consultants, we did not address impact fees. That will be something we'll need to address in future budget amendments. But this is the first time we're actually putting together a budget amendment to try to avoid having that audit finding, to minimize that. And it's really driven by a couple of things. In the general fund, we got the grants in for the Arts and Heritage Center. We got those in October and November last year, the reimbursements. So we had Healthy West Orange, Orange County, and the Arts and Cultural Affairs grants. So we got additional revenue there. We also closed out the loan and the project. We had anticipated doing that in the previous year, so it was not budgeted in last year's budget. So this is accounting for those. We also processed a whole lot more building permits than we expected. We were a little on the conservative side because of COVID and wondering how the building was gonna go. So to that, we bring in a whole bunch of revenue. And then we also have additional expenses through our consultant through PDCS. So it's offsetting, but there are things that we need to recognize. So this budget amendment recognizes, and then I also cleaned up a few other administrative things, just, going through each of the departments. And then on the utility fund, the big change there, the utility fund was in great shape. Things are going well. In fact, with the overall, with the general fund, revenues exceeded expenses, and I anticipated increasing our reserves for this year. And this confirms that we'll be increasing reserves for this year. So, and then with the utility fund, it's in great shape. Things were pretty much in line, but we did get the American Rescue Plan money. We got it in September. So I just needed to recognize that we got that revenue in. It went into reserves for last fiscal year, but we've already got it budgeted in projects for this fiscal year. But we needed to recognize that as part of the process. So that's what this budget amendment's about. As we're getting more sophisticated, these are the kind of things that we need to do. We've got a much better software system now. So in the future, we'll try to keep up on these things ahead of time. But this is something that's fairly normal as far as doing budget.
Oh, yeah. You have to true up your budget, periodically.
Yeah. So, any
So,
questions? I'd be happy to answer them.
all right. If we have no questions at the table, I need a motion, please.
I'll make the motion to accept resolution 2021-16.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I'm going to open a public hearing. Any comments from the audience? Any comments from afar? Raise your hand. Bring it back to the table, close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. That is a lot of work. Or the culmination of a lot of work.
Yeah.
I have to get the staff, everybody, putting this agenda together, and the next one should be fairly busy also, so.
I know. I don't know about you. I don't know about you. You might be a little too efficient.
We'll try to keep it as organized as possible, but it will be pretty busy on that.
All right, town manager report. Do we have anything additional? And Parker, he's scared, very scared.
I don't know. I guess next week, I believe next Friday, we're going out to bid for the redundant well, so that'll be before the next commission meeting. I'll bring that up. And we had a really good day today with the historic Black Cemetery. So
good.
Look forward to tomorrow. So
Very good. Would it be how long is that project slated to last?
what's that mean?
The historic Black Cemetery.
So the clearing's just today and tomorrow, but the actual project of them doing the
Total.
assessments and stuff will be done by June at the latest.
Can we, I know you'll give us updates, but can we get some pictures along the way?
Yeah.
For historical purposes and to keep us abreast of it?
Absolutely.
We took some today, but we'll take more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get some and get it out to y'all. And if any of y'all want to make arrangements, we can walk you out there.
Yeah, we can have a little tour when the time is right, but the pictures will be valuable in the coming years.
Yes. We actually were trying to get a reporter out there today. I don't think it worked out to do a little story on it. So
That's a wonderful project.
There's plenty of time for that. So.
Okay, anybody else?
I just have a couple things I can go through real quick. Just a reminder that we're not having a second meeting in November. The next meeting is December 14th. I had a pretty good coffee with the manager last week. I did it early because of Veterans Day. I had like 9 or 10 people on there, including somebody that lives right across from the Briley Farm. So I made sure they knew what was coming tonight. And they were fairly pleased. I'm not going to do a coffee with the manager in December, and then in January, we'll start talking about how we can maybe change it up a little bit, do some in person, some on Zoom, or
That would be great.
someone's thereof. Town offices will be closed on November 11th for Veterans Day, and also on November 25th and 26th for Thanksgiving. And then I will be out of the office on the 17th, 18th, and 19th next week.
The nerve of you taking some time off.
I'm tagging along with my wife. She's going to a conference. She's gonna work and I'm gonna be off, taking it easy. We've got the places of worship opening on November 12th from 5 to 7. And we've
That's
got
Friday,
some
right?
really cool displays in there and some really nice art. So I invite everyone to come out for that. We've got some flyers over there.
Truck. Right? We're having a food truck.
Yes, ma'am. Just a couple other things. Briley Farm, they're doing a traffic study. And so you're gonna, as you're going down Tubb Street, attached to a street sign is a camera. It's not surveilling people, it is counting cars. We had Mike and I had a meeting with a couple officers out there because they put it up this morning and nobody knew. Instead of doing the little tubes across the street, they use a camera. There's also one out on Oakland Avenue near Jefferson. So they're counting cars. I don't know how many days they'll be out there, but just if anybody asks, just counting cars.
Although it will come in handy for people that always run that stop sign, being able to see it, right, Chief?
He can do that with his little speedometer sign.
You guys want me to put cameras up everywhere?
You know, in this day and age, I just assume that I'm on camera everywhere.
Yes, pretty much.
I wish we had a camera at Spear down there. I think it'd be a very good place for a camera.
And then the last two things, tomorrow, Bike Walk Central Florida will be out doing some surveillance on a couple of our pedestrian crossings. The one at Sansparilla and also right here at Tubb Street at the West Orange Trail. Just doing what they had done previously. You probably all got emails directly from them. So just a reminder that that's going to be happening tomorrow morning. And then the last thing is the Florida League of Cities is having the legislative action days on February 8th and 9th. I am planning on attending and I'm booking a hotel this week and just need to know if anybody else was interested. So Commissioner McMullen and Mayor Stark, I will book 3 hotel rooms then.
Yes.
I'm not rooming with you.
And
Oh, no, I'm not rooming with you, so yes.
what did he say?
I'm not rooming with you, please. Separate.
Yes, I need to get.
Really?
I'm not rooming with you.
You're not gonna share a room with him? All right, and-
Citizens, save the money of the taxpayers.
And you
Well, here's
know
where we say,
where-
how about them gators?
in which to look for hotel
You
rooms.
get your preferred list. So I don't remember the hotels in Tallahassee, so.
Oh, stop it.
But I will.
It's the one downtown. That looks like a brothel.
Yes.
It does.
The hotel is in bankruptcy.
Pardon?
It's in bankruptcy. That's the DoubleTree or the Hilton.
DoubleTree.
It's in bankruptcy. So.
Is it? Well, I can't imagine why.
They busted the brother.
So we do have a meeting on February 8th, so I'll keep the agenda light and we'll just plan on having that meeting unless somebody else is going to be absent. So
Okay.
I'm sure we'll have some business, but I'll just keep the meeting rather.
I think, and I just have to say that it is so worthwhile to go up there. Joseph, would you not agree?
Oh, especially this year.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
It might even be done. I
Sal,
don't know yet.
I'm good.
Rick,
Pumpkin Glow was another big success at OMP. We had over 1,400 visitors over the 2 days, 2 evenings. We had 137 pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. That was the community provided for the event. And we raised $4,300 in donations. And then in December, we're going to have a wreath walk, December 17th through the 19th. Going to have a winter in Florida theme, and I'll be able to give you some more details in December.
Okay.
On that one. But yeah, the Pumpkin Glow is a huge success.
great idea.
That is a cool idea.
And the $4,300 is just pure voluntary.
Yeah, there's not a lot of overhead for pumpkins.
Someone else made them.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that they were donated by the community.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The wreath walk is a great idea.
Yeah.
Joseph?
So last week I was able to attend the Florida League of Cities Legislative legislative conference. And there's a lot of things that's going on in Tallahassee. And so, there's several items. I just highlight some of the ones that's going on. I know Steve emailed us on the one, the SB 280 ordinance. So that's a big one as far as us doing an impact. Of course, these are potential bills. We're doing a business impact if we have a change in ordinance, and the business can sue if they want to, and if they win, we have to pay the legal fees. A couple of other ones that's being proposed. Well, let me say this: FLC is going to be doing a lot of emails and a lot of updates between now and when session starts. Also, there's a special session coming up next week, I believe. That Governor DeSantis called. But some of the bills that they're really highlighting is one, raising tax when a person sells a home, and that the reassessment, if somebody owns a home, they die or whatever, then they sell it and they reassess it. The state is thinking about erasing that, and not allow a town or a city or a county to reassess it at their higher value. So that's one of the ones they propose. And so I know there's going to be some uproar about that because, when someone's passed away and they will a home to someone else and it's reassessed, of course, that higher value does help cities and towns. Asking commissioners and, local elected commissioners to do an extended financial disclosure. So, we do the simple form pretty much. They're going to think about having us do an extensive, longer form. So that's one that's being.
It's a good thing I don't have any money.
There's gonna be some grant programs to help pay for the charging stations statewide. So that's some good stuff that's coming our way. And then the potential to allow businesses and even governments to be sued around the vaccine mandates. And so there's a lot of stuff that's going to be discussed. I'm just giving some of the highlights that we discussed. But so we need to really
do our homework.
Help Steve and help everyone. Stay on top of some of these potential.
Do our homework and make sure we hit what we need to hit.
Because the Florida League of Cities is kind of watching about 500 bills as a team, and it's normally about a few thousand that come presented. Not that many get passed, but it's still they're chasing down so many.
Just to add, the chamber is really good too.
Yeah.
When it comes to ones that affect businesses and has always supported us with what we are, trying to accomplish.
They believe short-term rentals going to pop up again. One good thing is I know Commissioner Ramos talked about this, having some grants as it relates to cybersecurity. So there's some potential dollars to help with assess with cybersecurity, some grant dollars and some grant.
That'd be great.
Dollars for training staff. So that's a good thing for some of the small cities like ourselves. That's, that we can't really afford a strong cybersecurity system, but there's some dollars over that. So there's some good stuff. It's not all, sad or.
Well, it never is, but when you have, Republicans are for smaller government, so I don't understand this interference.
Yeah, and leadership is driving everything. And so some of the younger legislators, they're going to be told what to do, and they're just going to do it. They may not believe in it, they may not feel it, or
well, they feel the
right. So that was some other
put up or shut up.
So FLC is going to be doing a lot of weekly calls. They're going to be doing a lot of emails, a lot of updates, and so any way we can help Steve and staff to kind of monitor some of this hot. Yes. I know we got that one with the business impact piece, but it's so many things going on that we really need to try to address. And hopefully also on the Tri-County League side, we may come up with a position paper that's going to that may affect our area so that we can come alongside, so we can kind of streamline or limit the number of bills that we need to look at as a Tri-County area to help us ensure that we're not being preempted by the state legislature. So, but it's going to be a busy session, going to be a busy season. Special committees now, and then they got a special session coming up, and then January session starts. We'll be up there in February. There's a lot that we need to kind of monitor, and I just gave you just a couple of highlights, but there's several things going
Yep, well, thank you for doing all that work.
on. My pleasure, my pleasure. And I did also, last week I was in Tallahassee. There are free dollars or free, there's a lot of grants out there. There is staff to do grants for us. And so I know we've been talking about trying to do grants for a long time. So FLC, not only do we have a free subscription to look up grants, we can hire someone at a low fee to actually do the grants.
Usually pays for itself.
So, we're in a position to really benefit.
It's just we,
State is doing.
and I love that. I do love that, but when we get the money, then we try to kill Parker to get it all done. So we're gonna have to be,
Handle it, we can handle it.
we'll have to be strategic in how we do it.
By the way, I did activate that license last week and it's amazing what's out there.
Okay.
And see, that's the other part. I'm trying not to kill them before. So
Yeah, we have to be, yeah, we know.
Out there researching, so we can eliminate the research and then he'll stay long
I
enough.
have I have no problem. I know it's the great resignation, but I have no problem if we can get grant money,
Yeah.
bringing contractors in
Yes,
to
we are, and when we have actually with the septic and sewer, we're using a contractor to help manage the 3 grants. So
Yes.
we're definitely looking at that. And if we do, because there's going to be some infrastructure money out there also with the feds.
Right.
So if that opportunity is there, then we will try to make sure we manage it.
dollars.
If we have to use contractors also.
We won't say no to money.
Exactly.
Find someone to help.
I don't give money back.
Yeah, exactly. So we will try to manage that and make sure that we can take.
It's just finding those folks.
Right. So let me back up. It was 2 weeks ago I was in Tallahassee. And so Steve sent me both of the position papers and I gave them
Awesome.
our projects at the FLC so that they kind of have an idea of what we're trying to do.
And Geraldine already said yes, right?
Well, we've got the grant, the cemetery grant that Jay's working on. So we're doing an additional grant on the cemetery to do the fencing on the outside. And we're also, after being over there today, they are making some inroads with the the vegetation out there, but we may need some additional dollars to really, get some of that invasive stuff off the site. And they're being very careful. A lot of what they're doing out there is their hand pulling this stuff. So we are going to look at maybe expanding that $35,000 a little bit more in order to go after some money for cleaning up and then putting the fence up. So it's all good stuff. And then our legislative initiative. So we went with the alternative water supply as the main project. And that has been turned into Geraldine's office to Representative Thompson's office. I am waiting to hear on the Senate side what they're doing, but we have, and as soon as I get a bill number, I'll make sure I get that out to you.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. That's a lot of work. I appreciate it.
They make it easy. I'll tell you that. They make it easy. All I do is send out emails. Hey, this is what I found. Here you go.
Well, then we can give you more to do if it's that easy.
No. Everybody here at this table works hard. Mikey?
All right, just a few things on the school, and I'm gonna actually read Pam's letter of the things that went on. It just didn't make it in time to get into the manager's report.
Okay.
So we've just been busy as heck. New member of instructional staff after a teacher left, Lori Helms. With consistent course download trend in COVID in the last month that aligns pretty much with the reductions found all around Florida. So that's doing well. Early November, teacher of the year and support staff of the year to the school community. Carol Kelly in kindergarten as our Oakland Avenue Charter School teacher of the year, and Carlos Torres as our support staff of the year, which is
Wow, very good for him.
I love him.
good for both of them. But Carlos, he has been working just so hard.
Relentless.
That's a great guy.
October 29th, the entire K2 and ESC staff has been trained in what they call the Orton Gillingham approach. This instructional approach is highly sought after, but typically cost prohibitive. Oakland Avenue was gifted scholarship for our entire school instructional staff through the Reed Charitable Foundation.
Through the what charitable?
Reed.
Okay.
Reed Charitable Foundation. The training transforms our ability to help struggling reading by building the foundation of explicit literacy instruction. Without the support of the Reed Foundation, it would have cost $50,000 to $150,000 to train our entire staff. We're very fortunate and intend to use the approach as a priority. And you'll see it when it comes on the manager's report. There is a website where you go to check out what the approach is if you're interested in it. Also, the Eagles will also be performing at Santa Day again this year in Oakland. Last year, of course, we didn't because of the COVID, but we did years before, same type of a thing. They are actually closed on Thanksgiving from November 22nd through 28th. And their winter break for Christmas closes December 20th. Teachers come back on the 6th and students come back on the 7th.
Nice break.
So, and that's what's going on in our school. What's happening in your neck of the woods?
My neck of the woods, I was one of, I think it was a very small group of people were invited by Gunster to, it's called Listening to Leaders at lunch, and it was Jerry Demings. So he had a lot of interesting, things to say about what he thinks, what he wants to accomplish, where Orange County has been, where he thinks it's going, he wants to go with it. I have the document and I will send it to you. I think you'll find that there's some really good numbers in there that are rather interesting. So Steve and I have the Council of Mayors, on the 13th?
Yeah, I think so.
And I am certain that the agenda will be the transportation sales tax. I have no doubt in my mind about it. And this is something I didn't think about, and I could be all wet, but we got the flags for July 4th, remember, in Town Center.
Yeah, the little flags.
Yeah. Could we think about putting those out for Memorial Day and Veterans Day too? I know we're late to the party for Veterans Day, but in the future.
Yeah, I think we did put them out for Memorial Day.
Did we put them out for Memorial Day?
It's like we put them out for 2 holidays, but yeah, we'll have to put Veterans Day on the list of.
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate. And like I said, I might have been sleeping in the corner. When did the lights go up?
What?
The lights,
Christmas lights.
Oh,
holiday lights.
they're working on, they put them up on the buildings already, but we're like early on the list. I'm not sure. Alicia, could you speak to when the lights are going up?
Yeah, they will be up before Thanksgiving.
Okay, great. That was such a cool thing last year, and the residents just loved it.
Maybe you see this year.
Yeah, we've added some more to the new building, so yeah, it's going to be nice.
Very nice.
That's it. That's all I have. So if we're happy.
Yeah, I apologize. Also, the National League of Cities conference is next week in Utah, so I'll be up there. No, I won't be up there. I'll be on my computer. The Tri-County League. I'm going to attend the National League of Cities virtual city summit next week. Any good stuff come out of that, I bring that.
One, that's March usually. Are they doing that one?
Yeah, they're doing that one.
Okay.
They haven't decided if it's gonna be live or not yet.
Okay.
I think it will be. The date's already set. It's the 14th. Yeah, the dates are set. They didn't mention it. The DC one is March 14th through the 16th in DC.
Yeah, I told you to get more stuff in.
I apologize. If all hearts and minds are satisfied, let's adjourn. It's 8:56 p.m.
Thank you, staff. You have done a great amount of work.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Especially they find you friendly. That's a